We are back for our newest episode.
Ooh.
It's me, Becca, and Erin.
Hey.
So I know last time we talked about the Oracle at Delphi,
Mhm.
right? Good stuff. And had some fun times talking about our buddy Gerald. And I wonder how that guy's doing. Should check up on that,
Haven't seen anything in the news lately.
No, somebody talked to me about it recently, though.
Mhm.
There's a lady that I normally see, like to do my hair.
Yeah.
She was like, "Did you hear about that guy that got kidnapped by the dolphin?" I'm like, "Gerald? Yeah, I know Gerald."
We buddies. No, I'm just kidding.
Honestly, I'm kind of counting on Gerald at this point. Come save us, Gerald. No, but to let you guys know, we do have that Patreon. We have like a $1 tier and a $3 tier, or you can just join for free and just come see what's going on. And the $1 tier is just the you get the bonus episodes and shout outs here on the podcast. $3 tier, there's kind of like two $3 tiers because Patreon was weird when I tried to switch the $5 tier back to a $3 tier. So I know there's two $3 tiers, but I share the same thing on both.
Yeah.
So, and that is the bonus episodes, shout outs, but also Poison News monthly, and me and Adam do that. We also do the Neuromix chat monthly and just some like lives here and there, and also some bonus stuff that just kind of comes along, whatever we can put out and everything like that. So, but I'm going to jump in with our patrons, and we will also cover some comments because like I've been trying to like look into that and read off some of those because they're always fun.
Yeah.
And I think last week I forgot anyway, or last episode I forgot.
I was about to say, I don't think we did it last time.
All right. So starting off with our awesome patrons, we have Nicole Crane, Zaid, Brett Moser, Lynn Rocket, Ogre the Viking, Maggie's Yarm, Maya Shostak, Sasha Rubel, Nicole Rivers, Woolly Wolf NZ, Liz Bianchini, Dixie Painter, James Mills, Bobby Sue, Amanda B, Mara Santiago, Grace Lahan, Genevieve, Nevesha Treats, Jay Went, Inken Hafner, Kira Yorsak, Kate Linen, Robert Jr., Jessica Gasparini, Soy Kasumi, Thomas Huff, Glow and Go, Julia Franzoni, Lady Digitalis, Leah Marie Matson, Ebby, Supergirl Sway, Yeah Admits, Creative Otter, Dizzy Dancer, Mr. Slave, The Warped Witch, Dalek Party, Jennifer Ramirez Johnson, Desiree Davis, Melissa Emmel, Lynn Simpson, Aaron Carey, Kristen Arnold, Rynell Alara, Oma D, Bonnie, Christian Skreitergaard, Primrisen, Stuart Slattery, Minnesota SPT, Pungrammed 101, Caitlin Martin, Wendy Goldstone, Too Fidgety, which I understand, Jennifer Wilson Richter, Old Man Clyde, Anna Maria, Vix, Blaufrosch, Morgan Brittingham, Christine Muljadi, T-Bug, Pterosaurus Hex, Olive Octopus, Estar, Knitting Ninja, Sarah G, Jefferson Vargas, Donna Lanchinasi, Lauren Smith, Banana. It's fun. Makes me want a banana real bad.
Right? Except I'm allergic to them.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
Serpentine Fire, Melanie the SLP, Stuart Lee, Chris Milanak, Libby, Hetty, Hantapalooza, Lisa M.N., a.k.a. Schmutz, Jay Moon, Kelsey H., Paper Sky, Hannah Cook, Campus R, Britt Clark, Paris Longer, Andrea Shameless Agitator, Ruby Salazar, Cassandra Smiles, Daniel Soar, Jasmine, Dr. Doom, Maureen Hart, Justin Higgins, Nigel Hawkins, Judy Lowe, Nissa16, Seamus Picked, Lisa DW. When there's trouble, you call DW. Did you watch Darkwing Duck when you were younger? Or was that gone already? They're bringing it back.
Well, okay, I didn't have cable and all that as a kid, so we only got like local channels and like the Saturday morning cartoons.
Well, I know what I'm having you watch soon. Okay.
Hey, we got to have a new show until the next season comes out of Secret Lives.
Yeah. So we can get back with the drama, you know?
Right?
Lashia Paris, Jesse Pollard, Sarah, Jahira, Everyday Delirium, April, Alicia, Melafantastico, Panda Cannoli, Amber Golder, Donna Foley, Michelle Cornett, Teeth Weir 5, Natsumaya Terran, Tater the Gator, Hannah Rose, Sherlock and Watson, Ragdoll Cats, Nozomiko, Michelle with the 1L, and our newest this time is Catherine Gottabed Frazier, It's spelled like go to bed, and it's like
Mhm.
now I want to yawn when I read it because I'm like, I would love to go to bed. But if I'm
Almost
pronouncing that
there.
wrong, do feel free to correct me. Catherine, go to bed, Frazier. So thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast and everything we do here. You guys are awesome. We'll be doing another live soon. We didn't do one this past weekend just because of all the Easter festivities and stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's also spring break where we're at. And like, I've had kids at my house every day.
Can't catch a break.
Oh my gosh. And normally I have just the one kid. And so having all the extra kids, it's like chaos, right? So house of entropy, basically. But I was going to read some comments because I know we were doing that for a while and like we just kind of got stuck figuring other stuff out, I think. And
Yeah.
so I was going to read a few though, because I know this can get long. This is from the cyanide episode. This is a while back.
Mhm.
Let's see, Stormcloud 93. So fun fact, the biggest theory as to why apples became the forbidden fruit is because the name derives from the Latin word malum, which also means evil.
I could see that, yeah.
Maybe somebody just didn't like apples. They're like malum.
It's a doctor's.
Ah.
I'm just kidding.
Keeps them away. Now we know. Now
That's
we
why, apple a day keeps the doctor away.
So like if a doctor eats an apple like in the like break room, do people like traitor?
Maybe.
He's turned. It's too late for him. Yeah, so always fun. It's always fun to hear things like that. I love fun facts like that.
Mhm. I once had a friend that would eat like the apple cores and seeds and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that's evil. How did she like it's like the texture though.
I don't know.
Huh. I
But
guess waste not,
I guess building up what the cyanide resistance, right? Maybe
yeah,
a little bit.
I mean, you'd have to eat a lot of apple cores to really,
Yeah. It was usually
well, at
just
least as a human, to cause trouble, but still.
like just a lunch apple, so just
That would like, I feel like I wouldn't be able to control my face if I saw something like that. I'd be like,
I do remember the first time I saw her
oh
do
my
it. I was like,
God.
"What are you doing?"
What do you?
She's like, "I'm eating the whole thing." And I was like, "Is it good?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's fine." I was like, "Okay."
Oh no, the texture alone would like, I can't even cut it that close to the core because
Mhm.
it's like the texture of like the almost core.
It changes.
Ugh,
Yeah. It
can't
gets
do it.
too
Yeah.
not I don't even know how to describe it. Just
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
it's too much.
Let's see, we have another comment. Ria Haitala
Mhm.
from the Was It Poison episode, another old one, says Muppet Treasure Island. I freaking love that movie. It's one of the reasons I'm a fan of Hans Zimmer and movies like Pirates of the Caribbean and the 1993 Take on the Musketeers. Those are good movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to have Camilla watch that Three Musketeers movie. It was so funny. Like I feel like she'd understand it a little bit now, but
Yeah.
Muppet Treasure Island. All the Muppet movies were like my go-to. Oh my
Yeah.
God. And even when they sing that song, they're on the boat and they're like, I've got cabin fever. I've got it too. And like they go this crazy song. Anyway,
I remember it
Muppets.
once, watching it once as a kid. I don't remember it well enough to remember all that.
I watched it I still watch it. So
Yeah.
I can't say I used to watch it. I still watch it. Let's be honest.
It helps now that everything's on Disney Plus.
Yes. Someone else who knows about the good shows, the good movies, Milady Lee from the Radium
Mhm.
and the Doomed Dial Painters. The way I screamed Balto in excitement at my phone. Balto was a hero. And I love that movie too.
That was a good one. That was an underrated one.
It was so good. I had the dolls. I had Balto and Jenna, the
Really?
stuffed animals.
Oh,
Loved them.
that's cool.
So lots of good comments to catch up on. I'll do some more next time too. I need to look through the ones like on YouTube and stuff as well. But yeah, thanks you guys for leaving comments. We love reading them.
Yes.
And I want to talk today about a case that's been on my mind. And for some, maybe it never leaves their mind because it is quite the mysterious case.
True.
April is considered Autism Awareness Month,
Mhm.
Among other things. And this case, I feel it's connected to that as well. It doesn't have a lot of like poisons, like it doesn't directly involve poisons. And I know I usually always talk about poisons,
Mhm.
but it's a mostly unsolved case involving several individuals with mental and perhaps intellectual disorders.
Yeah.
And I'll go over like kind of what they were diagnosed with, not diagnosed with, what they would probably be diagnosed with today, that kind of thing,
Right.
which is where the autism comes in. But Yeah. I actually had trouble finding diagnoses for all but one person that we're discussing. So, but this is also the late 1970s when this takes
Yeah.
place. So we've actually made some pretty big strides since then with mental health. We have quite. I feel like we could definitely pick up, on the
Mhm.
ride with that. But
Yeah.
who knows? We can get there if we don't go backwards.
True.
So this has been described by some as Americans' Dyatlov Pass incident because, and we did an episode on the Dyatlov Pass. I don't know if you remember. It's like in um, the Russian area, the
Mhm.
mountain. The guys go up
Yeah.
and they're trying to figure out what happened to them. It's kind of a crazy scenario
Mhm.
situation. Um,
Yep, I remember that one.
yeah, and people still question what went on there.
Mhm.
But we're talking about the Yuba County Five, and that's what has been called America's Dyatlov Pass, sort of, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, and there's just mostly because they're like every time you get answers, there's just more questions. So that's how
Questions
this,
just lead to 5 more questions that lead
yeah.
to 5 more.
So it's one of those kind of cases where it's like it has to be frustrating if you are investigating it because you're like, this doesn't make any sense. But yeah, this one's been on my mind for a while. But let's start with some background information. You've got
Mhm.
5 young men from Yuba County, California. And they went missing one February night in 1978 after they went to see a basketball game together. All 5 of them had some sort of mild intellectual and or mental health disability. William Bill Sterling, who was 29, was
Mhm.
said to have, and these are in quotes, mild learning disabilities. He had a deep interest in religion and enjoyed reading religious texts and sharing them with others in mental hospitals. He also loved bowling and was described as athletic, kind, and a good friend. He did not like outdoor activities. However, he had been fishing with his family once and apparently never wanted to do it again.
Oh, but it can be so much fun.
Maybe it's like just all the sensory stuff. I don't know. But
That's fair.
he
That's
did
fair.
not like it. That's kind of important to know
Yeah.
for part of this. Theodore Ted
Mhm.
Weyer, was 32 years old, was also
Mhm.
diagnosed with having mild learning disabilities. He was described as a gentle giant. He had a knack for remembering details and recalling movies in detail, especially.
Mhm.
He was working for a snack bar around this time, but his parents were kind of urging him to quit because of the toll it had been taking on him stress wise.
Yeah.
Um, while he had a memory for detail, he really struggled with understanding basic reasoning,
Mhm.
or as his parents and others put it at the time, common sense. That's what they kind of how
Mm.
they put it. Jackie Hewitt, 24, was also diagnosed as having mild learning disabilities. He is remembered as being a loving, kind, and sweet friend. And he was reportedly considered to have more severe mental handicaps
Mhm.
than the rest of the group. He hated leaving home for very long. Honestly, same though. Jack Madruga, 30, was reported to have had mild, often referred to as undiagnosed learning disabilities.
Mhm.
He was a veteran and often described as quiet and introverted, but also very kind and intelligent. I want to say he served in Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah. He loved his car a lot. He had a 1969 turquoise and white Mercury Montego.
I love
It
turquoise
was
is a pretty color.
Yeah, and it was apparently like his pride and joy. He'd never let anyone else drive it,
Mhm.
sort of thing. It was just very special to him.
Yeah.
Lastly, there was Gary Mathias. He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and had previous psychiatric discharge from the Army. Earlier on, before his diagnosis, he had struggled with behavioral issues and even violent outbursts. He had been on medication at this point for some time and was considered stable on it for a good 2 years with no incidents at this point. So
Mhm.
um, he reportedly wore thick glasses because of his bad eyesight and worked for his stepfather's gardening business at this point. And he was described as a great brother and a rock musician.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
now, having looked into their personalities as described by their families, those who knew them, it's likely that in today's world of mental and physical health, most of the 5, Bill, Ted, Jackie, and Jack at least, likely had autism alongside some degree of intellectual disability.
Mhm.
Um, and some of it might have been, just plain autism. Some of it might have been autism plus some other sort of intellectual issue as well. It's just kind of hard to tell because this is, like I said, this is the 70s. And um, there was one who wasn't even technically diagnosed, but
Right.
he had needs that he could not be independent, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. Now, these four especially struggled with reasoning, social awareness, and could be and had been easily taken advantage of. They had been in the past. In the 1970s, autism was not as well understood, and many practitioners often misdiagnosed those with autism as having other disorders such as schizophrenia.
Mhm.
And like even when you look at the paperwork today, you'll see like schizoid type like mixed in with autism and such, and it usually has something to do with not really liking being around large groups of people.
Yeah.
But like schizophrenia has come to obviously be more than that, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of language and like what it used to mean, what it means now, that kind of thing. Those who received an actual diagnosis of autism usually had only severe developmental delays at that point, while higher functioning individuals were undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. And a lot of the times it was like, white boys who were really looked at when it came to autism, people of color, women, girls, they weren't really studied at all when it came to this sort
Mhm.
of thing. So um, it would be a while before that happened.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually until the 1980s that autism was formally separated from schizophrenia, and the criteria for diagnosis actually began to expand to include milder forms as well. So stigma was actually worse surrounding autism at that time as well, with many believing that the disorder was caused by a lack of motherly affection.
Okay.
They called it the refrigerator mother.
What?
Yeah.
What does that
She's
mean?
cold, I
Oh,
guess.
I was about to say, I was like, "What?"
But basically blaming the mom
Mm.
despite, how much care she gave to her child. It was still like, oh, must be the mother. Got to be the mom. Blame the
Mm.
mom.
Mm-mm.
Now, some children were institutionalized and made to disappear, basically. So it was not a diagnosis that was likely sought eagerly,
Mhm.
as it might mean, one, you're a terrible mother, despite how much you actually love and care for your child, or two, the only answer is to hide them away in an institution where they'll likely be mistreated for the rest of their lives, right? So
Yeah.
that being said, these boys still live with their families as they did have needs that they were unable to meet by themselves at that time. They were good friends after having met at the Gateway Project. This is an organization that provided social and learning opportunities to those with such disabilities as what we would consider autism today, and any intellectual or severe mental disabilities,
Mhm.
mild ones as well. But yeah. So they were, lovingly referred to as the boys by their families, and shared a love of basketball, which they'd actually learned and played at the Gateway Project. So they had like just
Mhm.
different opportunities for that kind of stuff there.
Mm.
And they also shared, their struggles with mental or psychiatric disabilities.
Mhm.
They were actually preparing for a championship game from a week-long basketball event that was put on by the Special Olympics. This last game was scheduled for February 25th, so they'd made it all the way up to the championships. Like
Yeah.
they'd like earned their spot to play this championship game.
Mhm.
Um, and this is 1978, so February 25th, 1978 was when their big game was. Their team was called the Gateway Gators, and they were all really, really excited for this chance to play and compete, especially since they'd made it this far, And the winners were supposed to get a week-long trip to Los Angeles,
That's fun.
you know. And their parents all described just similar signs of looking forward to their big game, including laying out their uniforms, asking their parents to make sure they woke them up early to be ready, like
Mhm.
repeatedly, like, hey, make sure I'm up at this time. I want to be,
Ready to go.
ready and good.
Yeah.
So that same evening, when they had laid out all that stuff for the next day, they all decided to go watch a UC Davis basketball game
Mhm.
against Chico State in Chico, which is about 50 miles or 80 kilometers north. And none of them were really dressed for very cold weather. They were wearing like light jackets,
Yeah.
just what they needed for where they were going. Madruga and Matthias were the only two with a driver's license. And Madruga, he had his Montego and he drove them to the game. Afterwards, they stopped by a Bears market in downtown Chico to get some snacks for the return trip, as you do, right?
Mhm.
And the clerk there only remembered them being there just before 10 p.m. because she was really annoyed that a large group had come in so close to closing, so
I
she
mean,
remembered what time it was.
yeah,
Um,
as most people would be
yeah,
when trying to close.
So while there, they bought, snacks, sodas, and some cartons of milk. Then they left on their way back home.
Mhm.
However, they never showed up home. So
Uh-oh.
the parents waited up and they called one another to see if anyone, had heard from them. But by morning, they called the police to report them missing. And this is very unlike them. They stuck to routine. They wanted to be home so they can go to bed so they can be up for this game.
Right.
Just not like them at all.
Out of
Um,
character.
yeah, very out of character for them. And so at first, police told the families that since the boys were over the age of 18, there's nothing they could currently do,
Mhm.
right? They were told they had to wait 24 to 48 hours before filing a missing persons case, which is so stupid, and really not
Mhm.
technically officially the thing
Yeah.
anymore. Like they'll say that still in some places, but
Thankfully, it's not the standard
right,
anymore.
like you have to honestly, advocate for whoever you're looking for because push them,
Yep.
make them do it. So the families did tell them that they had intellectual disabilities, but it didn't matter to them. Didn't seem to matter to them. They were like, oh, well. So they, pushed until finally by the next evening, the police gave in and they were able to place the boys at the game they were going to through witnesses there. So they know they made it there for the game and stayed until it was over. And they know they went to that, little
Mhm.
place to get snacks. And police put out a notice for the missing men and the car they were traveling in and searched the route for the boys that they would have taken,
Mhm.
to and from the game that they had gone to. They finally received a tip a few days later from a forest ranger from Plumas National Forest about a car matching the description. The ranger had seen the car parked in the forest along Oroville Quincy Road on February 25th. At the time, he didn't consider it significant since cross country skiing on trails there was pretty common. Many people drove up that way to do that. So he was
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're just out and about doing their thing.
Right.
So he led the police up to the car on February 28th, but the boys were not in it or nearby. They did find some empty wrappers and cartons left from like the snacks they had bought, on their way
Mhm.
home, as well as programs from the game they just went to and a folded map. GPS wasn't really a thing
Right.
yet that you could use to find your way. I would be so lost all the time because me and geography don't always go so well together.
I about to say, would, like, landmarks and stuff kinda help or
I feel like if I know the
the
place
place well
well,
enough?
like
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
here, I don't know the streets names here, but I know where I'm going.
Same. Like,
So
I have, like, landmarks and,
yeah,
like, I look for I'm like, "Okay, I
I'm
know
like,
this
turn
is
here, turn
here."
here, turn there. But if it's like a new place or if it's at night too,
Mhm.
sometimes I will end up in a whole different state. Um,
Which is dangerous being right.
yeah, and honestly, sometimes GPS fails me too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've had GPS be like, you ever seen like that Office episode where it's like turn right and
And
he
it's that
turns
little
into the
pond.
freaking pond and he's like, no, you're not supposed to turn right. It's like he said turn right. Yeah, that's the same
Oh,
one where he's
goodness.
like, but where's the turtles that we were talking about? Uh,
Oh, man.
the Office. Anyway,
Love it.
yeah. So the story gets weird pretty fast because the location of the car was not on or near any direct route to Yuba County where they would
Mhm.
have been traveling home. It was a long and winding dirt road, 70 miles or 110 kilometers from Chico, up 4,400 feet in elevation, leading
Ew.
towards the Sierra Nevada mountains. Like it
Yeah.
was this kind of mountainy road. Like, why were
Mhm.
they even going that direction? It was a snowy area, and a road nearby had been closed. So, like, it was snow, was coming down. They had planned for snow to come down for a while and for it to get pretty heavy, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
the car was actually stuck in some snow drifts, and it looked as if they had tried to spin it out, spin the tires to get out.
Mhm.
But police pointed out that it could have easily been pushed by the five men if attempted, like out of where they were. Um, Interestingly, this is also near the area where Bill Sterling had gone fishing with his family before and hated the experience. It
Mhm.
just doesn't really seem to matter specifically, but it's just an interesting fact, like that he'd been kind
Maybe
of in
he
the
was
area
like,
before.
"Check out this place where I used
Yeah,
to hate fishing."
yeah.
Or,
Hate that place. All right, let's
"Let's
go.
go look at it.
Yeah.
Let's go see what's so bad about it."
So like, it doesn't make sense why you'd want to go back there, but
Mhm.
I don't think it has any like relevance to the case. But it's like
That we know
it's
of.
just that we know of. But it's just an interesting sort of thing that happened to be. Um,
Mhm.
Now, when found, the car doors were unlocked. One window was down despite the cold temperatures and the falling snow. And mostly empty wrappers of the snacks they had bought on the way home were in the car, as well as a half-eaten candy bar that seemed to be left behind, like they
Mhm.
just left it behind. The boys and the car keys were missing, so police wondered if the car had broken down for some reason.
Mhm.
Now, they hot-wired the car and found the engine to be running fine. There, it started right up, and that there was a quarter tank of gas still left there. So, you
Hmm.
know, the car was okay.
Yeah.
So they towed the car back to, be further studied. And it was found that there were no dents or holes or any other problems with the car's undercarriage or even the hanging muffler because it was kind of low hanging. So,
Mhm.
like, they assumed maybe there'd be some bang ups on it because they were on this mountain road and a lot of potholes and bumps and stuff. Didn't find anything. So it seemed like they had pretty much driven pretty carefully up this road.
Right.
Now, Jack Madruga, owner and driver of the car, who it was said, like I mentioned, did not let others drive it, was not familiar with this area and actually hated the cold. Like, he would not have wanted to go where it was cold. His family reiterated that he would not have let anyone else drive that car, especially over such terrain, because he loved it so much.
Mhm.
He also would not have left the door unlocked and window down, just leaving it unsecured.
Yeah.
So searching the area was planned, but it had to stop soon, pretty much as soon as it started because of a severe snowstorm that had blown in. 2 days after the car was found, searching commenced with the use of snowcats. It's like these, like the they have the wheels that can,
Like a bobsled
so
kinda
sort of, yeah, like
thing?
it's like the,
Yeah.
yeah, it can go over snow. We don't really live where it snows very much.
A jet ski for the snow.
Yeah, it's got the cool giant
Treadmill?
wheel things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tread
those
tread
things.
tire thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not tread tire, but yeah.
Anyway, it's called a snowcat. But yeah, it's they can use it to go on snow. That's all you need to know. So they used these snowcats, but those looking for the men struggled to find their way around and almost became lost themselves. Bad weather again hindered search efforts after this too. So it just was not a
Yeah.
great time to be looking for someone
Mhm.
or to even be up there. So these young men with various disabilities, they're missing. Their car has been located in a place it shouldn't be, with the keys gone, and really no sign of foul play.
Mhm.
Just looks like they just parked and left,
Hmm.
which is not something they normally would have done.
Right.
So now reports about the men in the car went on local media coverage, of course, and another man who did not know the boys remembered seeing their car and had his own strange tale about that night. Okay. His name was Joseph Schons. Schons. It's like SCH. So I'm going with
Yeah.
Schons. We'll go with Schons. Sounds good. He had driven up to the area where their car was found on the same night and wanted to check on things before a ski trip that he had planned with his family the upcoming weekend. So he was in the area. He was looking for this cabin that he stayed in.
Mhm.
Now, about 5:30 p.m., he also became stuck in a snowdrift while driving. And he'd only made it about 150 feet um, up, this road. And he got
Yeah.
out to try pushing his car out of the snow, but then he suddenly began to feel very ill. Now,
Hmm.
he suspected he was having the early signs of a heart attack, which doctors would later prove to be accurate, which has got to really suck. You're going up here to do this thing. It's
Yeah.
snowing. You got to push the car out.
Yeah.
Heart attack. Great. Not cool.
Yikes.
So he got back into his car and he kept the engine running and the heat on. This is not a great spot to start having a medical emergency, as you can imagine. Cell phones weren't a thing yet, so it's not like he can really call for help. There's no one really around. So his only option was to lay in this car until hopefully somebody approached or he felt well enough to get out and walk to get help.
Mhm.
Had he done the latter, he likely would have died from the elements plus the, incapacitating heart
Yeah.
attack.
Yeah.
But he told police that after about 6 hours had passed, he was still lying in severe pain when he noticed headlights shining from behind his car. He said a car had parked just behind him and that he could tell there were several people standing around it talking, including a woman holding a baby. He called
Oh.
out to them for help, but they didn't respond, and instead they turned off their headlights and became very quiet.
Oh, that's odd.
Yeah. So he then said that later in the night, he saw lights again, this time from what looked like flashlights. And he called for help again, but no response came, and the flashlights simply went out.
How did this guy survive?
I guess, yeah, it's a little crazy. So he recalled that a pickup truck had parked about 20 feet behind him at some point in the night, then continued down the road. But he also told police that he had been nearly delirious from pain and could not be sure if it was a truck or not,
Mhm.
because I mean, yeah, it can get pretty bad. So Joseph Sean's car actually ran out of gas sometime that morning, and he felt well enough somehow to walk for help.
Mm.
So he walked 8 miles after
After
having a heart attack.
Jeez.
About 13 kilometers, eight
Mhm.
miles to a lodge where a manager drove him home when he then went to see a doctor, I guess. I don't know why he didn't
Yeah.
drive him straight to the hospital. Maybe he did. The article said home, but he walked, yeah,
Hometown
he
where the
walked,
hospital was,
I would
maybe.
hope so. He walked 8 miles after a heart attack.
Mm.
I can't walk 8 miles right now.
After eating dinner.
Like, oh my gosh. I mean, I probably could, but it would not go well.
Right.
So yeah, it was on
Jeez.
his way home, in this guy's truck that he noticed the Montego. Right, they passed by it.
Mhm.
So he went on to see a doctor who did diagnose him as having had a mild heart attack. So he wasn't untruthful about his account. But my question is like, how accurate was his account? And could he have been like hallucinating because of his physical condition at this time?
Right.
He was also in a car with the engine running. And as far as we know, like exhaust was not blocked at all. So it's doubtful he could have been inhaling any carbon monoxide, which definitely could have caused hallucinations,
Mhm.
but also would have been deadly, after inhaling so much for so long,
Right.
um, especially with his weakened cardiovascular system. Um, I also
Hmm.
don't know that much about cars, especially in the 1970s,
Right.
or how one might function in that environment. But
If it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
yeah. And if hypothermia can also lead to hallucinations, but Sean stated in his report that, he had his heater running in the car. So,
Mhm.
and it was on most of the night or all night really until that morning. Either way, the heart attack and pain from it alone would have led to him seeing, or it could have led him to seeing and interpreting things not there. When the
Right.
heart is not pumping efficiently, it decreases oxygen supply to the brain. It
Mhm.
can cause cognitive decline, confusion. I mean, pain alone can cause you to like see, hear, and interpret things wrong sometimes. And he said he was in pretty severe pain too.
Yeah.
So while he was sure he saw the car on his way home, the headlights, people talking, woman with a baby, flashlights, truck, etc., they may have been like warped interpretations of his surroundings.
Yeah.
It's possible, however, that people were there and chose not to intervene, which is both weird and awful.
Mhm.
um, but the families of the boys, especially that of Ted Weyer, uh, explained that they would never ignore someone's pleas for help. It was just
Mhm.
unlike them entirely. And some actually recalled when Ted and Bill Sterling had helped a friend who had overdosed on Valium get to a hospital for help, once.
Yeah.
So, like, they knew a medical emergency required action and would have helped if they could have.
Right.
Now, another witness came forward on March 3rd after seeing some posters offering a reward for information. I think the reward was like $1,215 back then. It would have been about $6,000 in 2025 money
Mhm.
from what I read. And she said that she had seen them at the store that she worked for, which was in Brownsville, only about 30 miles, 48 kilometers down that same road,
Mhm.
where the car had been abandoned. Like, had they kept driving in that direction, they would have ended up there or passing it at some point.
Yeah.
And she claimed that 4 men had stopped there in a red pickup truck the day after the disappearances. She recognized the men as not being from the area, noting their large eyes and facial expressions not being familiar, and pointed out specifically that two definitely matched descriptions and pictures of Jackie Hewitt and Bill Sterling.
Mhm.
She said that these two were outside in a phone booth, and the other two came inside to look around, I guess. Now, the store owner corroborated her story and remembered that before leaving, two of the boys, who he picked out as Jackie Hewitt and Ted Weyer, bought burritos, chocolate milk, and soft drinks.
Mhm.
Now, while Ted's brother was able to match the mannerisms that these witnesses spoke of to those of his brother and, like, food choices and things like that, it was still very unlike him or the others to just be cruising around Brownsville in a different vehicle when they had a game that they were excited about
Right.
that day, right? Now, Jackie Hewitt's brother, on the other hand, said that Jackie hated using telephones. Same,
Mhm.
though. God, I hate using telephones. And that he would never, he wouldn't take calls from his friends most of the times because of this. Like his brother said that he would take calls for him because he just avoided phones. He hated talking on the phone.
Mhm.
And I get that. But so, like, why would he be on this phone at this
Right.
station or at this store? And also, there was only 4 of them that were described in this sighting. Where was Gary Mathias? Right?
I about to say,
Like,
"What
where's
happened
he
to
at?
this dude?"
So the boys' families, had heard nothing from them since they had left for the UC Davis game in Chico. And basically, any answers only serve to just create more questions, right?
Mhm.
Why was the car found where it was? Shouldn't have been there. Like, they shouldn't even been going in that direction.
Right.
Um, why go someplace so unfamiliar and cold, especially when none of them were dressed for such temperatures and most of them hated the cold? Why would they not want to hurry home to make sure they got rest before their big game that they were looking forward to?
Mhm.
All of the families explained that the boys, usually adhered to strict routines and schedules. They, staying out and changing plans last minute was just not like them at all.
Yeah.
So, like, why did they just leave their car if the engine was fine and the gas still had, or there was still gas in it? Did they leave together? Where did they go? Where were they now? So there's so many questions that, their families were asking. And a lot of the families even said, like, they had actually urged, like, some of them didn't want them to go to the game that night because they were worried they might get home late or something and miss
Mhm.
miss the game and be upset and that kind of thing. So, um, yeah, but most didn't get answers to that last question of where they were until June of that year when the
Mhm.
snow began to melt. On June 4th, a group of motorcyclists went to a trailer maintained by the U.S. Forestry Service, I think, at the campsite off the road about 19.4 miles. It's about 31.2 kilometers. Let's say it's about 20 miles away from where the mercury had been found. And they said a window was broken and they described an overwhelming stench upon opening the door.
Mm.
So you kind of know what's coming. Um,
Yeah.
Inside, they found the decomposing body, later identified as that of Ted Ware. Now, he was there alone on a bed wrapped in like 8 sheets, head to toe.
Hmm.
A later autopsy report said that he had died of starvation and hypothermia. And he had lost at least 80 pounds and up to 200 pounds before his death. And according to like the growth of his beard when found, he had likely lived about 3 months since his last shave. So authorities estimated up to 13 weeks after the disappearance. So he would
Yeah.
have been alive up to 13 weeks
Mhm.
since he disappeared. So like,
Yeah.
what was going on? Now, he was wearing a velour shirt and some light pants rolled up above his ankles. He wasn't wearing anything for really, really cold weather.
Mhm.
But his shoes were missing. His feet were described as frostbitten and nearly gangrenous, and he was obviously
Mm.
missing some toes,
Yeah.
which, the cold. On a table next to the bed, police found his wallet, had cash inside of it, a nickel ring with Ted engraved on it, and a gold necklace that he also wore. Now, there was also a gold watch that was not his and didn't belong to any of the others. Um, like, no one could place it, but it could have also just been there, like,
Mhm.
when they
Like,
got
when they
there.
got
So
there,
it's like
yeah.
you can't really say if it was there or not.
Mm.
But there was also a partially melted candle on the table too. While found there alone, someone had been with him at some point because he would not have been able to really wrap himself up in the sheets he was in.
Right.
Um, Also, a pair of tennis shoes belonging to Gary Mathias were in the corner of the trailer, so he likely had been there as well. Some theorize that Matthias may have taken Ted Ware's shoes to wear if he left, the trailer, as his feet
Mhm.
might have been swollen from frostbite as well at this point. So, like, maybe, he would chose to wear Ted's larger shoes. What is strange, I mean, stranger, is that there was a fireplace. There was matches and books that could have been used for kindling in the trailer, but there was no evidence of any attempts to light a fire. There was also a supply of heavy, warm forestry clothing that just went unused, and also a heating system, which could have been operated via a butane tank that was in the shed just outside the trailer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that they would have known how to use that, but
Or were they maybe in a bad enough place that by the time they got there, it was kinda too
yeah,
late maybe?
like, well, I know, like, the one guy survived a good 13 weeks, but it's like, I don't know what was, um,
The others, yeah.
so
Hmm. If he had survived the 13 weeks, then showed up there, maybe.
yeah, it's kind of hard to tell.
The world
Now,
might not ever know.
yeah. especially like, and there's like snow everywhere.
Yeah,
So it's
that
like,
doesn't help
it's
either.
hard to see what's going on outside before it all melted
Well, can't
anyway.
snow also kind of throw off like the body's decomposition stuff too,
Yeah, the
though?
cold, yeah. It can. I mean, like, they were judging by, like, the hair growth, I think, more than
That's fair.
anything
That's fair.
else, but and, like, the fact that he had lost so much weight, I don't
That's true.
know.
And I guess if it's been what you said, 13 weeks, then
Yeah,
we're already coming into
depending
spring at
on
that point, probably.
yeah, because the hair wouldn't have been growing if he was dead,
True.
so,
True. Mm.
now he was probably in pretty bad shape those last few weeks for sure.
Oh yeah.
Another shed outside also had an unlocked locker full of uneaten, dehydrated food that actually could have kept all 5 of them fed for a solid year.
Hmm.
And there were also about 3 dozen sea rations, it's about like military rations,
Right.
which had been opened and eaten, as evidenced by the empty cans in the trailer. Now, they had been opened with one of those old can openers common to military supply, which at least 2 of the boys, Matthias and Madruga, would have known how to use.
Hmm.
Now, the one reasoning for Ted Wire's not eating any of the food or, using the fireplace, etc., was his reported history of cognitive reasoning issues as well. His family explained that he had trouble understanding even why cars needed to stop at stop signs, for instance.
Hmm.
One time he stayed in his bed during a house fire because
Oh no.
he didn't want to get up because he had worked the next day and he worried about not getting enough sleep. So it was like, no, I can't get up. I got to sleep. So like he had problems understanding like
This
I got to do
safety
this. Yeah.
concern. Yeah.
So he had some
Mm.
issues with that. So his family explained that, he just had trouble explaining or understanding a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so he needed constant care. So he may not have known how to light the fire or get to the food. He might
Hmm.
not have known that he needed to be honest, when it came to the fire and stuff.
Yeah.
While this may be the case, if someone else was there with them, like why didn't they help him eat or get warm? Sure, the others had some cognitive disability, but Matthias for sure knew how to get to food and open it and likely knew how to start a fire given his previous military experience and the
Right.
fact that his diagnosis was primarily psychiatric and, you know, reportedly pretty well controlled at the time.
Hmm.
Um, if at least one of the men was able to eat from the rations, why was he not able to feed Weir as well?
Right.
Or yeah, so there's like all these questions.
Hmm.
So it was determined that he had most likely lived a good 13 weeks since disappearing. So he was starving that long while food and someone eating it was nearby. Like that just
Yeah. Something's
seems
off.
weird, right?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, maybe even collectively they needed more assistance than previously thought. I just don't know how that goes with
Mhm.
what was going on with them. But so much just doesn't make sense,
Right.
in the case. So, and also like, how did they get there? This was 20 miles away from the abandoned car. Uh, where were the others? You know?
Yeah.
So the day after Ted Wire was found deceased in the trailer, the road between the trailer and where the Mercury was abandoned was more thoroughly searched, and they found the bodies of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling.
Hmm.
They were about 11 and a half miles from where the car had been abandoned. Jack Madruga's body had evidence of being scavenged, by small animals, as would happen in that
Right.
location. And Sterling's remains were just bones at this point. Um,
Huh.
they were on opposite sides of the road and both had died of hypothermia, according to autopsy reports. It was theorized by authorities that one may have simply given into fatigue. Like when you have hypothermia, kind of that last bit is like, I
You're
just want
just
to go to
exhausted.
sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other likely stayed beside their friend and ended up dying the same way.
Hmm.
Really sad, but that's what they, theorized would have happened. 2 days later, Jackie Hewitt's father was a part of another search party and actually found his son's spinal column under a bush, just 2 miles northeast of the trailer where Ted's body had been found.
Just a
Uh,
spinal column?
it was like, and they found his they spotted his jacket, and when they moved the jacket, they found the rest of like
Mm.
other bones elsewhere. They found his let's see, a pair of shoes and jeans nearby helped identify the body as Hewitt's. The next day, a deputy sheriff found a skull downhill from the bush about 300 feet away, and they
Oh.
were able to confirm by dental records that it was
Hmm.
Hewitt's. His cause of death was also listed as hypothermia, which would make sense. He's out there, in the elements.
Yeah.
What doesn't make sense is why were they there? Right?
Mhm.
Um, Now, and I imagine like a rudimentary autopsy is basically the only thing they can really do, with just bones,
Right.
obviously, especially at this time. There's no stomach contents to review, soft tissue injuries to look at, no toxicology tests done.
Mhm.
If any skeletal injuries or assaults were there, I'm sure they should have been documented, for sure. But,
Right.
no such findings were listed. Just the frostbite, gangrenous feet of Ted, who he was inside that trailer. He was wrapped up. So he was
Mhm.
more likely to not be bones at that point. And he
Right.
he he likely survived longer than the others did who died in the outside.
Yeah.
Now, nothing of Gary Mathias has ever been found, ever,
Hmm.
except for his shoes that were in the trailer.
Right.
Only 3 Forest Service blankets and a rusted flashlight found later next to the road, which was about a quarter mile northwest of the trailer. They found that, but they can't, it couldn't be confirmed that Matthias was carrying these or left them either, just that it was a possibility.
Mhm.
So, and it should also be mentioned that Matthias would have been unable to take his schizophrenia medication while missing.
I was
So,
about to ask,
he
he was the
doesn't
one
have
with
his medication.
yeah.
Um, Now,
Huh.
um, and this could have profound effects on his decisions, his own survival. But
Yeah.
before being so stable on medication, Matthias had survived some other interesting situations. In 1975, just 3 years earlier, he had suddenly quit school at Yuba College in Marysville, California, and traveled up to Portland, Oregon to stay with his grandmother. I'm sure it had something to do with his mental health.
Yeah.
Um, his parents actually urged him to come home, but he simply just hung up on them when they called. And then some weeks later, he returned home to Yuba County, having walked the whole way. He walked over 540 miles on foot.
Mm.
I mean, of course, you walk on foot, but you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying. He over 540 miles on foot, claiming that he had stolen milk
Mhm.
and eaten dog food for sustenance, like on the way there.
Yeah.
He had also once escaped a mental facility, reportedly
Hmm.
squeezing through a drain pipe, then hitchhiking home in his hospital gown.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just saying from personal experience with eloping mental health patients, don't pick up a hitchhiker with a hospital gown on. Don't leave them either. Call
The proper authorities.
stay near them and call emergency services who are trained to handle such situations, but don't just pick them up. Because, it could be dangerous to them and to you.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So, could Gary Mathias have put on Ted Weir's larger shoes and attempted to trek out into the wilderness? And if so, did he ever make it out? Did he ever make it back? You know, um, did he ever make it to civilization? If he did, why didn't he call anybody, say anything?
Mhm.
You know, um, Now back to him in a moment because I want to go over a few theories about what happened according to police and family and just kind of see what you think.
Yeah.
Okay. So the main theory of police has been that their visit to the area was intentional and that they were going to visit some friends that Matthias apparently had near the area in the
Mhm.
small town of Forbstown. This would have been weird though because it's like they hadn't said anything about going to do this, and it's like they're not the type to really switch plans like
Mhm.
that easily. Um,
Right.
but if they had, they may have taken a wrong turn near Oroville in the dark and ended up on this mountain road where the car got stuck. They would have decided to leave the car and travel forward, even though they had passed that lodge that Schron's, that witness who had the heart attack that same night,
Yeah.
went to for help. Um, and they may have been following the tracks left by a snowcat um, that had been there since the previous day, believing it would lead to shelter or
Mhm.
something, and ended up at that trailer because it was heading to that trailer to remove some snow that was on the roof so it wouldn't collapse, I guess.
Yeah.
But they would have been walking in these tracks through snowdrifts that were like 4 to 6 feet high. So, it
Yikes.
was cold, it was snowy, bad weather.
Mhm.
Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling could have died of hypothermia about halfway there, their bodies ending up where they were found,
Mhm.
and Jackie Hewitt not much further. When the final two, Gary Mathias and Ted Weir, found the locked cabin, they may have broken the window to get in. It's been suggested by some of their family that Ted would have feared that he had broken the law or done something bad, which he was just like afraid of doing.
Mhm.
And that also could be why he didn't eat anything that was kept there or use the clothing because he felt like maybe it was stealing.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that they said could have been the case. Once he died, which like would have been over a matter of, days or weeks because of how he died. It's believed that Matthias wrapped him in sheets after taking his shoes and then, left the trailer to seek help or a way home. So that's one
Mhm.
official theory. And then I guess, Matthias is just never found.
Right.
Like he perishes out in the wilderness
Somewhere.
somewhere, and
Mhm.
it's a big wilderness, right?
Right.
Another theory put forth for the men leaving the car was that they panicked and fled on foot after seeing something or believing they saw something or after feeling threatened. This is just kind of a jump, I guess. You would have to assume that something happened like between then and the time they left the car, I guess.
Yeah.
It's been suggested that perhaps Matthias had an episode due to his paranoid schizophrenia, but at the same time, he'd been fine on his medications for the last few years, and he wouldn't have been missing doses until the next day, after they'd gone missing. So,
Right.
I mean, maybe, but now other less likely theories involve Joseph Sean's being involved somehow, as his story was like just changed over time and was not easy to follow. But a
Mhm.
doctor did confirm his heart attack, and his story is a little weird and possibly a lot of it is hallucination,
Mhm.
but it's just unlikely that he had anything to do with their disappearances. He didn't know them. He didn't, what
Yeah.
would he have, gotten from that? And I mean, he would have
Hmm.
been having a heart attack at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have been leading out these guys to certain death while having a heart attack, right?
Right.
Also, like, the woman he saw holding the baby, was that real? Like, if so, if it was, like, where was she?
Yeah.
Where's she at? Uh, like, no one's ever come forward about being that person.
Mhm.
Who was she? Did she see anything? Was she real? She might not even be real. Another vague theory is that they were victims of a hate crime or discrimination. And while it's true that people at the time did treat those with intellectual and psychiatric disabilities differently, and still do in some cases here now, and often poorly, there is no real evidence of others being involved in their disappearance or deaths, like
Mhm.
whatsoever. Like we don't have any physical evidence saying that somebody else was involved. Um, Now, finally, some have theorized that Gary Mathias may have had more to do with the disappearances and deaths of the other four. And
Mhm.
this seems harsh, of course, because they were friends. And the only reason for this theory is because, he's never been found.
Right.
Right. So it's like, oh, well, he's not been found. So maybe he's the guy. Right. And it's like, but it could also be because he left and died elsewhere.
Mhm.
We just don't know. Um, But it's also could be due to the fact that he had some behavior issues involving violence in his past and had been arrested and institutionalized before, because of his diagnosis and some just issues from that.
Mhm.
Now, some question whether or not he had lost that stability, that he had achieved on his meds. Perhaps he had some sort of breakdown, or maybe there had been some underlying tension not spoken about before this trip. Jack Madruga's niece actually expressed some concern over what she remembered he had mentioned, um, that Jack had mentioned. According to her, Jack had said that he and the others were scared of Gary and didn't actually want him to go with them to the game.
Mhm. Hmm.
She's the only one that seems to like say that though, so I
Yeah.
don't know. Now, a former Washington Post reporter who worked on the story believes that Gary's psychosis may have returned and he somehow led the others out into the freezing wilderness.
Mhm.
Whether it was just because of a decision, like faulty decision, or anything more,
Mhm.
um, um, which I don't know why. I don't know. So she thinks that maybe the psychosis returned and he just somehow lured them out there or led them out there, made the decision, helped, kind of talk them into, let's go out there and see what we can find. I don't know.
Mhm.
She mentioned his previous outbursts and problems with drugs too, right? But there's no like evidence of any kind of fighting or anything, no struggle, it
Mhm.
seems, or anything like that. So it just, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this theory, to be honest, because it almost seems discriminatory. And the only evidence they used to put it together was all the past stuff, when he was untreated.
Right.
And many, who have a lot to say about people with schizophrenia have never actually even met or been around with anyone with it. I've worked around, quite a few people with schizophrenia, mostly veterans actually. Um, and some do have more invasive symptoms than others. And he did have a lot of, past issues. So like it's hard to kind of,
Mhm.
I don't know, balance that out. But it feels like jumping the gun to sit here and say he had to have something to do with it. just because he had this diagnosis and we haven't found him yet. This happened, like it just seems like there's no physical evidence that says that happened. So
he's not here. He's guilty.
yeah. So it's kind of like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just trying to
Just
find
a
something
theory.
to be to blame.
And I think that actually seems to happen to a lot of people who are like grieving and stuff. It makes them feel like some sort of closure's there, but it's not really closure. It's like fake closure, But but he was said to have been free from any concern or outbursts, the last couple of years. I mean, could he have had some kind of breakdown or outburst? Yeah, I suppose, but it just didn't seem right with how things had been,
Yeah.
Madruga's niece also states that there were sightings of Matthias after all of this, and she swears she herself saw him at her mother's bar a year after the other men's bodies were found, and that when he noticed her, he fled. But like, why would he go there?
Right.
Did he not know this was Madruga's family's place? And she says that she has also heard reports from others of him being spotted in other areas, but that's just hearsay.
It's like saying you saw Bigfoot.
I mean,
right? Maybe. I don't know.
Also, like, if you're really looking for something, it's easy to spot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you might be looking like that guy has glasses and dark hair. That might be him. You know what I mean?
I know this is totally random. Just a thought. Is he Bigfoot?
Maybe we can ask Gerald when he finally comes to rescue us and take us down to his sea.
Only spotted every so often and lost in the woods. I
don't know. I once saw this. There was a sighting of Bigfoot, and whatever you think of Bigfoot, you believe in him, great, go for it. Yeah. I don't go in the woods anyway. I'm not likely to ever meet him. Then again, I'm not likely to ever meet Gerald either. But I'm just saying, this one was funny to me because it was in South Carolina. And I'm like, do they know how many hairy men just walk around without their shirts in South Carolina? That's probably all that was.
Yeah.
That wasn't Bigfoot. That was just Joseph down the street, right? Anyway.
Going to get his newspaper.
Right? He probably saw the blurry picture and was like, hey, what's that supposed to mean? But anyway, another man driving in the area said that he saw Gary Matthias hitchhiking. All these people, maybe it's me. I don't recognize people that easily. I'm like, there's a person. Hi, person. I wouldn't look at somebody and be like, that is such and such from such and place and da-da-da-da. I'm just not.
See, I can recognize faces. I just don't always remember names super well.
Yeah, I could have trouble with both, but it's I don't know that I would be able to look at a picture of someone and be like, yeah, I saw that guy hitchhiking 2 weeks ago. I don't even know where I was 2 weeks ago, right? I don't know. Maybe some people are just better at that than I am, but then again, they do say that eyewitnesses are really not that great when it comes to details and remembering details, and they're really not all that reliable. So that's what I've heard, right? Because one eyewitness will say this, another eyewitness will say something completely different,
right?
So it's you think you remember more than you really do. But anyway, just an interesting little tidbit there about possible sightings, I guess. And none of these sightings have ever been verified. How would he be that evasive for so long and be able to live on his own like that with the degree of disability he'd had, right? And when he walked to his parents' house all those years ago from Oregon, he lived off stolen milk and dog food, and he looked like hell when he showed up, apparently. Yeah. It just seems like he wouldn't have been able to just move around and be evasive for that long, Now, Jackie Hewitt's older brother doesn't think this way at all, however, and he believes that some bullies that he knew rumors of who may have had issues with Matthias got to all of them. He thinks that when Matthias stood up for the others, maybe they had an encounter with this bully who had been, according to him, in and out of jail. He didn't give any names or anything, right, for good reason, I'm sure. But he believes Matthias might have stood up for them and was possibly thrown over the Oroville Bridge, which is a very imaginative, sort of specific thing to say.
Right.
I don't know if they've ever checked underneath that bridge. I think it's a lake or a river or something under there. So I don't know if they've ever checked down there, but he thinks these bullies then may have had the other four drive up the mountain road and basically scared them bad enough to not come back down, because of what they saw, them do to him. He mentioned that there were only 4 sets of footprints going to the trailer, and that maybe someone was carrying Matthias's shoes with them, as they were all that had been found of him was the shoes, right? And there were only 4 sets of footprints going towards the trailer at one point. So, I mean,
Hmm.
kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
Um, there are just a bunch of similar stories, of course, and these are just some of the ones I found from the families. Most of the boys' families were not content with the way that police and media handled the search efforts for the boys. From the very beginning, as I mentioned, they said they could not do anything about them not coming home, even if they did have intellectual disabilities, which is crap,
Mhm.
right? According to the families, even when they did finally agree to start a search party, it was not very thorough. For instance, it was well known among those searching that there was an empty trailer um, those 20 miles away. Like they knew that that trailer was there. And rangers had just sent a snowcat up to it the day before, the boys went missing,
Mhm.
to remove snow from that trailer's roof so that it would not collapse. They were worried about it collapsing. So that might have been the snowcat tracks that they were following.
Right.
So they knew that that place was there. However, authorities insisted that the boys could not have walked that far. So it just wasn't searched.
Mhm.
Now, one of the fathers of the boys requested that they look in that area because he knew about that place too, but it just wasn't done. I suppose police assumed it was too cold to travel that far and that site would be under a good bit of snow, but like, why not just look?
Yeah.
It's 20 miles away. Just drive over there and look.
Probably would have found one of them.
Like, just go.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to lose in that 20 minutes?
Mhm.
Another major issue was how the case of the missing men was presented to the public.
Mhm.
And this gets just trigger warning for the R word because this is how it's portrayed back then in the public. One headline read, "Foul play suspected in disappearance of 5 slightly retarded Californians."
Mm.
One expressed 5 slightly retarded men vanished without a trace. There was another one that simply read, "Retarded men missing." So, like,
Mhm.
that was the headlines. And this was how these men were portrayed and perceived.
Mhm.
And while the word, used to describe them may have still been used, medically at the time in some areas, it was still just the wrong way to go,
Right.
when looking for missing people, especially.
Mhm.
And it was still offensive. It carried with it negative connotations. It was still offensive to them and their families.
Right.
And the families believed it also hindered the search for the men because of the discrimination that comes with it,
Mhm.
whether due to spite or just indifference, right? Why does it matter if the missing men are intellectually impaired, except to inform others of maybe the need of care that they may
Right.
have? But that wasn't the intent with calling them that in these articles, really.
Mm-mm.
It was simply to grab readers, right?
Right.
And it didn't really help matters.
Mm.
So they could have simply explained, the greater need to find them due to their disability and need for care.
Yeah.
Even better, they could have been like, "Oh, 5 Gateway Project championship players missing," because Gateway Project
Yeah.
is known for helping those with those kinds of disabilities.
Mhm.
But even later, there were headlines like 5 retarded men remain missing.
Mm.
Why do you need? Why? Um, Many believe that this caused limited like motivation. To find them because why spend so much time, energy, and resources looking for these men that they considered, let's be honest, dumb,
Mhm.
right? Um, there were officials who expressed their belief that because of their limited mental capabilities and overexcitement for the basketball game, they even mentioned the consumption of sugar added to it. Like, oh, these men had intellectual problems and they had a lot of sugar,
Mhm.
and that led to them making bad decisions, and they just couldn't recover from that bad decision.
Okay.
It's like, so you're just not going to look for them?
Yeah. That.
Even if their disabilities did lead to such mistakes in direction or judgment, like, why should that limit the search
Right.
and investigation of what happened? Like, it doesn't make any sense why you would do that. But the family felt as if the boys were basically treated as being stupid and not worth being tried as hard for, which
It's messed up.
is very messed up. And I imagine, like, really um, was hard for the families already struggling with, where is
Yeah.
my missing loved one? And then once they found, the bodies and stuff, they continue to call
There's
them this, and it's
insult to
just,
injury.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, basically, misperceiving these men who were kind and good friends and like just wanted to play basketball, and somehow ended up out here, and yeah, just if they had just checked that one place, like maybe they would have found them, at
Right.
least a couple of them.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Something.
yeah. So, but that is the Yuba County Five. Matthias has never been found. And there are still people who suspect maybe he had something to do with it. But again, there's no like hard evidence that he did.
Right.
Um, just that, sure, he had a checkered past, but it's like, you can't just go on that
Mhm.
the whole, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't, that's not how it works.
Right.
um, so yeah, but it's a sad story. I know there's not much poison involved, if any, but it's just,
Yeah.
something I was thinking about because like, we've talked about hypothermia, quite a bit too, and how it can cause you to do a lot of strange things,
Right.
hallucinate. It can cause you to start removing clothing even though you're cold, that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm sure it didn't help with what was going on cognitively for them. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, what do you think? Do you go with the police
I don't know.
explanation or
I really don't know.
it's weird, right? Like it's the more you think you know, the less you do know because you just have more questions.
Right?
Um, the guy that was hallucinating because of the heart attack, maybe hallucinating, I don't know, but like that was a lot. Like he saw all these people, or did he see them? Like it was just,
Mhm.
I don't know, it was weird. And
Would have there been, like, other car tracks that he would have seen after he finally was able to get up and walk from his car?
I would think he would see something unless he just wasn't paying attention. I don't know. Or, I mean, I know it was snowing, but it's like within that many hours, would it have been enough to,
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't live around snow that much. So, I mean, yeah, but it's strange. It's like there's so many questions like, why were they there? Why did they leave the car?
Mhm.
You know, or maybe more than two of them made it to that trailer and then like some went out to look for help and they didn't come back. So the other one went out to, I mean, like it could have been a couple of different things. We just don't know.
Yeah.
And there's like no way of knowing.
Mhm.
So unless like, Matthias is ever found and knowing whatever became of him, that mystery might be solved. But like we can't know what actually happened.
Mhm.
So, but yeah,
Interesting.
crazy story.
Really is.
Yeah. But I promised to bring some crazy poisoning stories next time. I really wanted to get that one out though because it was just sticking with me, and I was like, we got to talk about this because
Right.
it's a crazy story.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but y'all let us know what you think in the
Mhm.
comments. What are y'all's theories? Whose theories do you agree with? Do you know? Maybe you live out this way. Let us know
May
if it's talked about a good bit. So,
maybe there's been some new evidence that popped up. Who
yeah,
knows?
I mean, it's just crazy. 1978. So, all right.
Mm.
Well, yeah, leave us a comment, send us a message, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.